Looking for the perfect happy hour to unwind after a long day at work? Look no further than Walter's Indoor-Outdoor Happy Hour, catering to everyone who lives in and around Navy Yard. $5 happy hour options include salmon sliders and house red wine.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
0-2 from Irvin to Schwarber is popped in the air to right field. A one-handed swing, and it's deep, and it may go, and it will. A one-handed flicking swing on a curveball, and it's a three-run Schwarber homer. And the Phillies lead it 3-0. That's number 9 for Schwarber. Second game in a row, he's homered in the first inning.
Irvin delivers. Swing and a long drive to right. Back is Cruz looking up, and it is gone. A line drive home run into the second row over the 13-foot 3-inch wall. Max Kepler, his third home run of the year. It's a hold of a fastball. Again, velo down for Irvin. And it's now Philadelphia 6 and Washington 2.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. April 2025 now is complete. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season are 13-18, including just 4-11 on the road. 9-7 at Nationals Park versus 4-11 on the road. Wednesday evening, a 7-2 loss at the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 2 of a 3-game series. This off the wild 7-6 walk-off loss at the Phillies on Tuesday evening. You could find us on X at Nats_chat. You could hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Mark, some scary news prior to the game. A member of the Nats coaching support staff collapsed during batting practice, had to be carted off the field to receive medical treatment. The Nats ended up canceling the remainder of batting practice, went back to the clubhouse to await word on the person's condition. What can you tell us here?
Fortunately, there's some encouraging news at the end of the night about it, Al. James Frisbie is his name. He's one of their 3 batting practice pitchers. He's been with them for 3 seasons now. He was throwing BP, about to throw his first pitch to Keibert Ruiz a little after 5 p.m., and he collapsed. And it was a scary situation. It was right in front of a whole lot of people, including everyone from the team. They immediately rushed to him. The good news was that because where it took place, you had trainers, you had paramedics that are on site already, able to rush to get to him. They stabilized him, put him on a stretcher, and took him off to the hospital. What we found out after the game from Davey Martinez is that they're running a lot of tests on him. They didn't have any results of those tests at that point, but according to Davey, James Frisbie was coherent and feeling better were the words that Davey used. So we don't know exactly what's going to come of this and how long he will need to stay there, or if they really know what the cause was. But there was a brief period there where everyone was pretty concerned. It was a scary situation to see happen, and you could just tell the reaction of the players, everyone else with the team. This is a member of their family, and, about an hour and a half before game time, they have to cut short BP, go back into the clubhouse and try to get ready for a game that I'm sure their minds weren't 100% on.
Well, we certainly wish James the best and glad to hear that things appear to be headed in a good direction. Before we get to the specifics of the game, so we're now through April. We're more than a month into the regular season. March 27th was opening day. 13-18 is the Nats record. Minus 33 is the run differential. The Nats actually do have one of the poorer run differentials in the National League. We talked about the importance of the Nats needing to get off to a good start. Now that we are through April, are the Nats off to a bad start, a so-so start, an encouraging start? How would you characterize the start that the 2025 Nats are off to?
I feel like if you asked me this question 3 days ago, I would have had a very different answer than I do. That's how much the last 3 days have kind of changed the narrative. And maybe that's really the story so far of the first month of the season. There have been times, even weeks at a time, that you think to yourself, this team looks like a much better team, that they've made real progress. They are hanging with and even beating some very good opponents. I think that's absolutely been true so far. What has not happened is they have not been able to sustain that level of play, and they still have these games and stretches, because they've had some losing streaks, where they look a lot more like the team that we saw from the last few years, where they don't look like they belong on the same field as some of these opponents. They got blown out by the Mets the other night. In this game, it really wasn't all that competitive against the Phillies. They're down early and never threatened to come back. So I do tend to believe that they are in a better state right now, that the talent is better than we've seen here in quite a while, and that they believe that they should be winning more games. And as we discussed the other night, they were really down about the way they lost that game to the Phillies on Tuesday night. So I do think you can step back and say, yes, things are better. They are competing in a much different kind of way than we've seen, but they're not there yet. And there are still nights and series in which they don't look like they've completed this process yet.
Yeah, and I think what everyone still is waiting for is that emphatic declaration of "we have arrived," that bust out of the rebuild, that month in which you see the Nats go 20-4, something ridiculous to where you're just overwhelmed with how well things are going. There hasn't been that stretch yet. And I think if this rebuild is going to be the success that everyone wants it to be, there needs to be that moment, that period of time in which you make that transition from, hey, they're making incremental steps to, okay, they have arrived. This thing is working. That clearly was not the case in April, but we still have 5 more months to go in the regular season. So perhaps that stretch of baseball is coming. The Nats starting pitcher on Wednesday evening was Jake Irvin. He had been really good in each of his previous 3 starts, but Irvin in this game, 6 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 90 pitches, 60 strikes, 30 balls, but he gave up 2 more home runs. Irvin in the bottom of the first gave up a 1-out, 3-run homer by ex-Nat Kyle Schwarber to right field on an 0-2 pitch for a 3-0 Phillies lead, and Irvin in the bottom of the 6th gave up a leadoff homer by Max Kepler to left field for a 6-2 Phillies lead. Jake Irvin now for this regular season, 7 starts, ERA of 4.01, whip of 1.13, 8 home runs allowed in 42 2/3 innings. I get that this game was at the sit, and especially that second homer that he gave up was kind of a Citizens Bank Park special, but 8 homers in 42 2/3 innings. The homer has been a bit of a problem for Irvin.
I think the 2 problem areas that he's had are the home runs, as you state, and bad first innings. He's really struggled to get off to good starts. Now, in a lot of those other ones, even if he has given up a few runs in the first inning, he's done a nice job of flipping that switch and getting it back under control and putting together a good quality start. In this one, he did not. He really was kind of facing an uphill battle the entire time. The 3-run homer in the first, but then he gives up a run in the 4th, a run in the 5th, a run in the 6th that never found it. The saving grace, he did make it through 6 innings, but as he said, 6 innings is good. 6 runs in 6 innings is not good. I think we call that a Patrick Corbin, 6 and 6. He knows he needs to be better than that. He does take pride in his ability to give them, length in these starts. And so there's something to be said for that. But this was not the best version of him, obviously. And the other concern was his velocity was down by the end of the night. The last home run he gave up was on an 89-mile-an-hour fastball. And I feel like this has come up a couple of times last year with him where you say, where did that velocity go? By all accounts, it's not injury related or anything like that. It does sound like a mechanical issue where he flies open. He doesn't get the same push with his legs. And he kind of acknowledged that same thing. So he feels like it is something that can be fixed relatively quickly and easily, but it was not there tonight. And it's certainly something to keep your eye on and be concerned about when you see Jake Irvin throwing 88, 89-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Well, it's worth noting this with Jake Irvin. He's perhaps older than you may think. This is his age 28 season. He's not like in his mid-20s. We tend to think of Irvin as like this young, up-and-coming pitcher. He is young. He's not old. But age 28 season, so your athletic prime, and the godfather of sabermetrics has studied this, Bill James, it's more like 24 to 28. It's not what we used to think it was, like, say, 28 to 32. So as odd as it may sound, once you're into your late 20s, you're already into your decline years athletically. Doesn't mean that you're falling off a cliff, but like the best of you athletically probably is behind you. And so for a pitcher in his late 20s to start experiencing a velocity decline, maybe it is just a mechanical thing and nothing more. But I think that is something to keep in mind with Irvin. He's not, 24, 25. He is age 28 season. And, that is something to be thinking about. But, it is something. You mentioned the Patrick Corbin-like nature of what Irvin did in this game. Nats starters are consuming innings, and I give them a lot of credit for this. It isn't necessarily always pretty, although overall I think the starting pitching has been good. But as we are recording this, and these numbers will change as the evening goes on, but the Nats for this regular season in terms of innings from starting pitchers, third in the majors, 171 and the third inning. So I give this rotation a lot of credit. It's eating up innings, and when we talk about the problems of the bullpen, it's not because the bullpen is being leaned on too much here. Like, the starters are more than shouldering their workload when it comes to consuming innings.
Yeah, you're 100% right. This has not been a case where they're asking for 5 innings every night out of the bullpen, and that's causing the problems. No, that hasn't been the case at all. I think it's a mindset organizationally. They, unlike a lot of organizations in the year 2025, really do stress to their starters the idea of going deeper in games and giving them 18 outs or even 21 outs is the number that Davey often brings up with them. He knows that's not always realistic, but he wants them thinking in those terms. Too many, especially younger pitchers nowadays, think to themselves, I can get 15 outs, get through the 5th, or maybe 18 through the 6th. That's great. That's all they're asking of me. The Nationals don't want them thinking that way. They want them thinking more than that. And guys like Irvin and Mitchell Parker and Mackenzie Gore, I think, have shown an ability to do that. And it does make a difference in the long run and allows you on a night when maybe you do get off to a rough start to salvage it the way that most of the time Jake Irvin has been able to do, the way that Mackenzie Gore has often been able to do. So it may not be the norm in this day and age of baseball, but it's certainly what the Nationals are preaching. And I think in that regard, they are being successful in getting more out of their starting pitchers and trying to take some of the workload off of their relievers.
I mean, for comparison's sake, the mighty Los Angeles Dodgers have played the same amount of games the Nats have played, 31. The Dodgers, in terms of innings from starting pitchers, 139. Again, the Nats at 171 and a third. Now, look, the Dodgers have a much better record than the Nats have, so there is more than one way to skin the cat in terms of having success and, whether your starting pitchers go deep into games or not. But, man, that stands out that the Nats and Dodgers each at 31 games, and the Nats have 30-plus more innings from starting pitchers so far.
Yeah, as I said, mindset. Now, the Dodgers are an organization that does not necessarily preach that other than Clayton Kershaw, who has been hurt and not pitching the way that he always used to. Now, they have a much deeper bullpen there, but they are much more of the mindset of face the lineup twice, and then we're going to move on to whoever is next beyond that. That's not the Nationals' mindset. And it will be interesting as this goes on to see, can they get their rotation to anything like it used to be? I mean, that was the backbone of this team during that 7-year stretch of winning records and 5 trips to the playoffs. It was Scherzer, Strasburg, Gonzalez, Pfister, Roark, Corbin at his best, Sanchez, where 7 innings was the norm. You were expecting that from those pitchers. And we've talked about before, I mean, Mike Rizzo comes from a background of believing that you win championships behind great starting pitching. It's how he won with the Diamondbacks in 2001. It's how he won with the Nationals in 2019. And even as the industry mindset has changed, Rizzo still believes that is your best path ultimately to the ultimate success. Now, the group they have right now doesn't look like that, but they want to get them closer in that range. And one of the big steps in that is believing that 6 innings isn't enough, that go for 7, even go for 8 if you can be efficient enough with that. We'll see in the long run how that plays out.
Well, only 2 innings were required from the Nats bullpen on Wednesday evening. 2 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 innings. Colin Poche, perfect bottom of the 7th. Good to see that. But Eduardo Salazar, 1 run in 1 inning. Bottom of the 8th, gave up a leadoff homer by JT Realmuto to left center field for a 7-2 Phillies lead, despite him having been down in the count at 1.02. So the Salazar struggles continue. He, for this regular season, 14 games, 12 2/3 innings, ERA of 9.24. Hey guys, Al Galdi for Window Nation, which has another terrific offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Now until May 31st, get 60% off and a free entry door with a house of new Window Nation windows. Plus, pay nothing until 2027. Schedule your free estimate at 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Prepare for the summer heat with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. Window Nation has some of the best energy-efficient windows out there. Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all windows, so you can save long into the future. Hurry, the sale ends on May 31st. Do not miss out on your chance to get 60% off and pay nothing until 2027. Schedule your free estimate right now. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Back so soon? Oh no, what happened?
A little incident at the dog park. We gotta head to the vet.
Oh, not again. These bills.
We can use CashNet USA. We can apply in minutes, get a fast decision, and have the money in the account as soon as the same business day. All right, Cheddar, back in the car.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See CashNetUSA.com for more details.
Planning a trip this year? Travel smarter and connect deeper by learning the local language with Rosetta Stone. With over 30 years of experience, Rosetta Stone's immersive, intuitive method helps you live the language, not just memorize it. Choose from over 25 languages, including Spanish, French, Japanese, and more. Their true accent speech recognition technology gives real-time feedback to help perfect your pronunciation. No translations, just natural learning that builds from words to phrases to full conversations. Whether you have 5 minutes or an hour, you can learn anytime on desktop or mobile. Get a lifetime membership and unlock all 25 languages. Learn as much as you want, whenever you want. Rosetta Stone. Learn confidently. Connect authentically. Don't wait. Unlock your language learning potential now. Listeners can grab Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's unlimited access to 25 language courses for life. Visit rosettastone.com/pod50 to get started and claim your 50% off today. Don't miss out. Go to rosettastone.com/pod50 and start learning today.
He's just chasing. I mean, that's the biggest thing with Josh. We got to get him in the zone. He hit one ball really good to right field today. Ball's up in the zone. So we just got to get him to relax a little bit and stop chasing.
The Nats offense in this game, not good. The Nats total just 2 runs and just 5 hits, which were a double and 4 singles. The Nats worked 3 walks, but went 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position and struck out 12 times. And I do believe that it is time for us to have a Josh Bell conversation. You asked Nats manager Davey Martinez during his post-game session with you guys about Josh Bell. So Bell, on Wednesday evening as the Nats starting DH and number 5 batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, dropping his OPS for this regular season to a putrid .503. He has hit a few home runs, that is true, but the overall offensive production has been woeful. He has been the Nats' regular designated hitter. He routinely has been in the top, 4 or 5 in terms of Nats lineups, but the production has been so bad. We know that Bell's a streaky hitter. We know that a few years ago he was one of the Nats' best hitters, but we also know that the last few years have not gone so well for Josh Bell, and he would appear to be a declining player. I think we would agree there should not be some super long leash with Josh Bell. Davey Martinez with you expressed this notion of, hey, Josh Bell is streaky.
He's been that way his whole career. I mean, it really has. So I'll take it once he feels it and gets going.
We know that Bell has tinkered with his swing, but man, the results so far, not good.
Yeah, I want to even go beyond the results. I just want to talk about the way he looks when he's swinging. These are not very pretty looking swings. You can almost see that he is trying to find the swing that he's been working on. And we talked about it in spring training, even after they signed him, this whole idea of the goal this year for him was get the ball in the air, hit for more power, even if it's at the expense of some strikeouts, etc. Well, he's hit 4 homers, so okay, that's good, but he's still striking out quite a bit. And again, not even just the results, the process, these swings don't look comfortable. You can almost see him with this like extreme uppercut. And there's a lot of swings that just don't look like they have a chance. And that's not what we've seen from him in the past when you go through slumps. Yeah, he would look bad at times, but this to me looks different. And I'm sure it's a case of him trying to find this particular new swing that he's working on and just has not been able to find it consistently. Now, he talks about, and Davey says the same thing, that when you do have a track record for slumping but getting out of it, it just takes time and something clicks all of a sudden and you've got that right feeling. And the next thing you know, you're on a month-long stretch where you're as productive as anybody in baseball.
The consistency with him is what we're waiting for him to come through, and I think it's going to happen.
Maybe that can still happen. You don't want to totally write off the possibility. But I do think a month into the season, you can't just say, okay, we keep throwing him out there every single day in that prominent spot in the lineup and just count on it happening. I do think you have to start being a little more selective with matchups. Against lefties, he's now 2 for 25. Took all 4 at-bats in this game against lefties, struck out 3 times. Not that the numbers against righties are good, but the numbers against lefties are really, really bad right now. That feels like a case where you face another lefty, give him the night off, put somebody else out there. I don't know if we're there yet. They're certainly not making it sound like they're there yet publicly, but I don't think you can go too much longer with this notion of he's got to be in the lineup every day in the middle of the order. I think you'd have to be a little more selective in picking your matchups.
I think it is really tricky because there is that thing of he's super streaky, but when he gets hot, he can get really hot. And so there's part of you that's like, okay, just ride this out because we saw this in 2021. He was so bad and then he ended up being quite good. But on the other hand, 2021 was 4 years ago and Bell is older. Like I said, the last few years have not gone well for him. And at what point do you get to the point to where you say you're chasing something that's no longer there? One of the maddening things with the Nats the last few years to me has been them sticking with veteran players who struggled. And we kept hearing, well, this guy has a track record. Well, this guy has shown he can be good. And the guy never ends up being good for the Nats. Nelson Cruz, Cesar Hernandez, Joey Gallo, the list goes on. The Nats stuck with some, if not all of those guys for way too long. And I don't want to see them do that with Josh Bell. So I get that, it's not an easy decision here. Again, streaky background could end up getting going. And then you're thankful that the Nats stuck with him. But so many plate appearances during this rebuild have been wasted away on guys who arose to nowhere, guys who you thought maybe could be good, but guys who ended up not being good, guys who were signed to these minimum contracts, as Bell was 1 year, $6 million this past offseason. There's a reason he was available at that kind of price. So you say, well, hey, you'll take a flyer on this guy, but the flyer doesn't work out. So I think this will be telling how long they're willing to stick with Bell, in addition to, of course, this idea of does Bell ever get going this season?
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground there. I don't think you have to say we're cutting ties altogether this early in the season. And that's both contract related, but as you said, some track record related. And he does provide leadership in the clubhouse and some other things that are of some value. You don't have to get rid of him altogether, but that doesn't mean you have to play him every day either. And I think there is a middle ground there where you pick the matchups that make sense. You maybe put him lower in the lineup at times. You use that DH as an opportunity to get James Wood off his feet, or even get a CJ Abrams or Luis Garcia off their feet in times, and maybe start Nasim Nunez for a game here or there. We know Alex Call has been productive, but is kind of squeezed out of the outfield. Well, there's an opportunity to get him in there at times. I think there's a balance you can strike to not abandoning Josh Bell, but still finding ways to get him opportunities to get it going, including pinch hit opportunities late in games if the right matchup presents itself, while also giving others a chance to play and prove that they deserve to play more, because right now there are at least a few that you would say, I'm intrigued enough to see what they could do if they played a little bit more.
LinkedIn Jobs is here to help small business owners with that crucial step of making the right hires. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates you can manage all in one place. Here's how it works. Simply post your job, and LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. You can either post your job for free or pay to promote it, and promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified candidates. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partners. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
Pitch to House, slow curve, launched high in the air to deep left. Backheads Fergus, he's to the fence, he climbs the wall, reaches up, and it's gone. House homers into the visitors' bullpen and left. 2-0 Red Wings.
Here's a quick look at Rochester's 4-2 loss to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs on Wednesday evening. Brady House hit his 5th home run of the season. His OPS is up to .856. Dalen Lyle tripled in the leadoff spot, fresh off getting promoted from AA Harrisburg. And Juan Yepes, 1 for 4. He's struggling so far this year. OPS of .505. Now back to the show.
Swinging a ground ball up the third base line. It's a fair ball down the left field line. In to score is Young. Heading for third is Wood. Throw there. Offline, not in time. And into second goes Nathaniel Lowe. The Nationals on the board with a clutch 2-out hit for Nathaniel Lowe here at the top of the third. It's now the Phillies 3 and the Nationals 1.
Well, Josh Bell was not the only Nats player who struggled in this game. Dylan Cruz, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 6 batter, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. A bright spot was Nathaniel Lowe. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 1 for 3 with an RBI double and a walk. Lowe in a Nats 1-run third, a 2-out opposite field, RBI double into left field to cut the Nats deficit to 3-1. So Lowe continues to do well, but boy, this was one of those games where, like, beyond that, there just was not much to the Nats offense on Wednesday evening.
No, they just never had it going. And maybe we've been conditioned a little bit here recently to think, if you got to a slow start, they do have a chance late because they've been doing it a good number of times. It just never felt like that in this game for whatever reason. They couldn't touch Christopher Sanchez. The couple times they had a chance, they, stranded runners in scoring position. That was Bell as a big part of that. And then they did nothing against the Phillies bullpen. I'm looking at 12 in a row retired from the 6th inning on. So they really never seriously threatened to come back in this game. And that's unfortunate because it has become a hallmark of this team that even if they don't do much offensively early on, they've been finding a way to make it interesting and even get over the hump in the late innings. There was none of that in this game.
Would you say, okay, we know James Wood has been the Nats' best hitter this season. Would you say Lowe is number 2?
Probably. I mean, C.J. Abrams, when he has played, remember he missed a little bit of time, has been pretty productive. But I feel like Lowe's probably been a little more consistent. And certainly because of where he fits in the lineup, he's coming through in some big spots. The 3-run homer the other night, the RBI double here. He really has been everything you would want him to be so far in the first month of the season. And I just think back all winter, we're talking about what are they going to do at first base? Are they going to spend big? Are they going to go after Pete Alonso and Christian Walker? Then they don't get those guys. And, and they end up with what feels like some kind of consolation prize in Nathaniel Lowe. And I remember thinking at the time, I didn't know a lot about him from his time in Texas, but looking at his career trajectory and what he brought to the table, it kind of reminded me of an Adam LaRoche around the time that LaRoche came here. And so far, that's sort of what he's been. Exactly. Excellent defense, a steady presence in the middle of the lineup who hits for some power, drives in some big runs, popular with his teammates. This has gone very well for Nathaniel Lowe and the Nationals, and you hope he can keep this up because if that ends up working out, this is going to be a far better acquisition for them than if they had spent big money on one of the other guys who maybe wouldn't have fit in as well.
Yeah, I mean, Alonso is having a good season, but in terms of production for dollar, I mean, it's really hard to complain about what the Nats are getting from Nathaniel Lowe, although he is the highest paid Nat on the team, as we have noted, $10.3 million via the arbitration victory for the Nats this past offseason. I think it's interesting, too. So this is Lowe's age 29 season, but he's under team control through next season. Is he a piece for the Nats moving forward? Is it more that he's just a temporary guy and you don't look at him as being someone who will be here, hopefully, when the Nats are good? Now, hopefully the Nats are good sooner rather than later. But, I would be interested to know that. Like, Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo, when he looks at Lowe, does he see him as just a temporary guy at first base, or does he see him as perhaps a long-term piece at first base?
Well, this is where I go back to LaRoche, because at the time that was filling a need that they had for a team that was still trying to get over the hump and become a winning team. It was 2011 when they brought him in, so they had not had a winning record yet. And he kind of ingrained himself right away as an important part of that puzzle, so much so that they re-signed him after that initial 2-year deal and brought him back for another 2 years. And he was a really important part of a very good Nationals team. I think you could have a similar situation here with Lowe. It's not like there's somebody knocking on the door to play first base for them from within the system, or even, around the field. You say, well, here's somebody who needs to move to first base in the long run, like you had with, Ryan Zimmerman eventually once LaRoche was done. Long way to go. We're 1 month into this with him. But what we've seen so far, it does remind me a lot of the LaRoche situation. Somebody that you brought here, not necessarily thinking of him as a long-term part of the puzzle, but I think absolutely could be. It's not all going to be young players who were homegrown. You do have to supplement that with free agents, and it doesn't always have to be the big name, 9-figure contract guys. They can be these lesser deals for good quality veterans who fit in. He has fit in very well with this team.
And he recently shaved the mustache, which I thought was an interesting decision because, well, mustaches are not for everyone. I actually thought he looked pretty good with the mustache, but I guess he decided otherwise.
That's your opinion, Al. I will not share that one with you.
Hit us up on X. You tell us what you think about the Nathaniel Lowe mustache at Nats_chat on X. Find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to do a shout out to someone who you care about via this podcast, let Tim Shivers know. Again, that email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Puck back for Savard. Back in net is Dobesh. Everyone standing here in the nation's capital. The Caps are moving on as the puck goes far wing, chipped up in the air by Trevor Van Riemsdyk to the Montreal line. For the first time since 2018, the Capitals nailed down a best-of-7 series. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Montreal. Logan Thompson and the Capitals are moving on to round 2.
Earn a business degree on your terms. At Capella University, our FlexPath format is available in select programs and lets you learn on your schedule. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.